Mello Buckzz has broken her silence in a deeply emotional and raw Instagram statement, opening up about the horrific tragedy that unfolded at her mixtape listening party earlier this month in Chicago. What was intended to be a moment of joy, a celebration of years of dedication and relentless creative effort, was suddenly shattered by the deafening echo of gunfire and unimaginable loss. The shooting claimed the lives of 4 people and left 15 others injured, most of whom were women. Among the deceased was her boyfriend, someone who wasn't just a partner but a central figure in her personal and artistic journey. Her message shared with the world through social media wasn't just a tribute. It was a cry of pain, confusion, and profound grief, exposing the brutal consequences of senseless violence in a city already marked by repeated loss. In her post, Mello explained that the event was more than just a promotional stop. It was a spiritual culmination of 3 years of blood, sweat, and tears. A dream she had nurtured with love and persistence. The listening party was supposed to be a peaceful evening, a safe space filled with love, creativity, and shared appreciation for the music and meaning behind her first body of work. It was to be a moment where the artist and her community could celebrate a victory in the face of struggler night that highlighted perseverance, growth, and togetherness. But instead, it was violently disrupted in a way no one present could have prepared for. Last week, I hosted a listening party in downtown Chicago for a project I've been working on for 3 years. My first body of work built on real blood, sweat, and tears. What was supposed to be a joyful and peaceful night ended in heartbreak, she began, her words heavy with sorrow. Her voice, though written, carried the weight of disbelief and emotional paralysis. She painted the picture of the evening not as a typical celebration but as a landmark in her life. One built over time with deep personal investment, she continued. As the party was wrapping up, a mass shooting occurred, where 4 lives were taken from us, 15 others injured, with the majority being women who came out to show love and support. Her tone oscillated between reflective sadness and a simmering outrage at the injustice of it all. The people who were there that night weren't strangers, she emphasized. These were individuals close to her heart, friends, family, creatives, partners, loyal supporters. People who had stood by her side not just through the process of creating her mixtape, but through the turmoil, the triumphs, and the trenches of her journey. They were part of the reason she even made it to that point. Their presence wasn't casual. It was deeply personal. That made their loss even more profound. These weren't strangers. These were people I love. These were friends, family, creatives, significant others, and people who've been with me through this entire journey. She wrote, "What happened was senseless. And there's no reason a group of innocent people, mostly women, should have ever been targeted in that way." These words struck a deeper chord, especially in a society already battling the normalization of gun violence. Her heartbreak echoed something deeper, a cultural and human crisis, a repeated theme in the narrative of urban communities where joy is often interrupted by violence. Her tone was not just one of mourning, it was one of protest, of disbelief that yet again, something beautiful had been poisoned by something evil. And then her message took a deeply human turn, one that peeled back any remaining armor of celebrity or artistic persona. She wrote, "And while we can't say for certain what was in someone's mind or what anyone's intentions were, I do know this. I carry a heavy heart knowing so many lives were affected." She acknowledged the ambiguity that often follows such acts, the lingering questions, the whys, and the lack of closure. In many such situations, especially those involving mass violence, there are often no clean answers. But for Mello, the confusion only added to the ache. She bore the guilt of the survivor, the helplessness of the witness, and the burden of being the face of an event that ended in trauma. Her heart, she said, ached for every life lost, for every soul still healing, and for the energy of the space that could never return to what it once was. "My heart aches for the lives lost, for those who are healing from physical and emotional wounds, and for the spaces and spirits that may never be the same again," she wrote. These weren't just bodies in a crime report. These were human beings, whole lives, with families, histories, and futures who had their existence ripped apart in seconds, and those who survived weren't left untouched. They carried invisible wounds, spiritual fractures, and a new relationship with fear and uncertainty. The way trauma alters a person's very view of the world is something few understand until they've lived through it. For Mello, and those who shared that night with her, things could never be the same again. She vowed to keep fighting for those affected, to carry the memory of the fallen in her actions and her art. This moment is something that changed a number of us incredibly. She confessed, with the kind of vulnerability that comes from real, irreparable pain, "I will continue to honor those we lost, stand by those who are healing, and do everything I can to keep their memory alive. Please continue to pray for the families and our community as we try to make sense of everything." In asking for prayers, she wasn't just seeking spiritual support, she was asking for a communal effort in processing trauma, in finding light amid overwhelming darkness, and in rebuilding what was broken, even if it would never be whole in the same way again. The event, which had been a celebration for her new mixtape titled Hollywood, had quickly turned into a scene of chaos and fear. Moments after the event ended, an SUV pulled up and opened fire into the crowd outside, turning an evening of music and unity into a nightmare of bloodshed and panic. Police were called immediately, and while authorities are still investigating the shooting, no arrests have been made so far. The lack of closure and accountability has only intensified the pain felt by Mello and those close to the incident. It has left them not only in grief but in limbo, with unanswered questions and unresolved emotions. In the days following the tragedy, Mello Buckzz retreated to her Instagram story to share more personal reflections, focusing especially on the sudden, painful loss of her boyfriend. Her grief was raw and unfiltered. The posts painted the image of a couple that had built an intimate, loving world of their own, one where laughter, daily rituals, and small joys created a quiet sense of home between them. She posted pictures and videos of the two of them, fragments of a life now painfully incomplete. "We was having so much fun in our private little life," she wrote alongside one video. Her words, casual in phrasing, were drenched in pain. That privacy, that sacred bubble they had built away from the flashing cameras and the noise of fame, had been popped by a reality that didn't respect peace. "Couldn't leave each other alone. Glued to my hip every day," she continued. It wasn't just about companionship, it was about spiritual closeness, a connection that made separation feel foreign. For Mello, he wasn't just a boyfriend, he was a partner, a safe space, a constant. She poured her heartbreak into the screen, revealing the devastating intimacy of their final moments. "It's not a night we ain't spent together. I'm so fucking angry. You was woke. I held yo hand, until I couldn't. You talked to me clearly. I don't get it, boo. I'm feeked up." Her grief, now unshielded and uncontrollable, wasn't sanitized. It was the truth of someone who watched love slip through her fingers and could do nothing about it. She didn't try to make it poetic, she let the pain speak for itself. The tragedy at her listening party is more than just another news headline. It is a symbol of the fragility of joy in communities that are continually forced to coexist with violence. Mello's experience is part of a larger narrative, one where creative spaces are repeatedly turned into war zones, where celebrations are tainted by grief, and where trauma becomes generational. Her voice is not just her own, it's the echo of countless others who have lost loved ones to bullets, who have had their dreams interrupted by violence, and who are still trying to find light in the aftermath of darkness.